that old adage of once a cheater, always a cheater became a reality that for a child of God, that doesn't apply. Because when Jesus says, I've come to set you free, he does set us free. When I found out about the affair, I immediately went to, I forgive you, just in the affair. I'm a broken mess.
Yeah.
I am in the floor in front of him saying, just end it, I'll forgive you. And he's just, with no emotion, just looking at me going, I can't. We have a 99% success rate.
Wow.
Yes.
Of reconciled marriages that stay married.
We are so proud of that stat because only God. Okay, let's give credit where credit is due. Only God. Jesus healed mind, body, and spirit. He healed the entire person. We follow his example.
Hey, welcome to the Seacoast podcast. We're here with Amy Worley, Lynn Stroy, Jack Hoy, Joey Svendsen. And I do want to give a shout out to the patrons. Some of you are watching live, and our general listenership, you should be a patron so you could get some live feeds, extra content, but I'd say most importantly, the measly $10 a month goes far in supporting our ministry efforts in local prisons. And I was able to see firsthand a few weeks ago just how impactful what Seacoast is doing, big picture wise, in these prisons. It's pretty unbelievable. We have Lisa Limehouse today. She runs a ministry called Beyond Betrayal. She's been a part of 2 unfaithful marriages. When she was young, she was the offender. And then more recently, her husband had been cheating on her for a very long time. You'll hear the story. And now they're doing ministry together with Beyond Betrayal. It's a pretty awesome redemption story. So what's up? How are y'all doing? Everybody all right?
Pretty good.
Hey, I want to tell, I got a little bone to pick with y'all. I tell y'all all the time, bring stuff to the podcast, interesting things, and then I'm the one that always has to tell random stuff. And then sometimes you cop an attitude with how random and trivial the things I bring.
What do you mean bring stuff? Hey, you've never asked us to bring stuff.
Oh my gosh.
Show us.
I just gave up.
What are you talking about?
I've always told y'all can bring stories.
Sure?
Yes.
Wrong text thread.
Yes.
Nope.
Okay, well, let me set it straight. Anytime you have anything interesting or stories, tell me and bring them. That'd be awesome. Because now I'm going to be talking about a bunch of random stuff.
And we're going to make fun of.
Yeah, and you're going to make fun of. The listeners will enjoy it, but...
Yeah. Well, we're here for the listeners.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Well, I do want to ask, so we dip our toes into the whole introvert-extrovert talk every now and then, and I think it's neat because Jack and I are very much so introverted. I would say you're opposite extreme. I don't know if I would say you are. Aren't you?
You think so?
Yeah, you're ultra extroverted. Wouldn't you say?
Well,
Maybe not.
I think we had this conversation when you kind of explained how you recharge, right? Didn't you talk about that?
Yeah,
by yourself? I think I'm a little,
Interesting.
how do you say both?
Interesting. Well, let me ask you two this because I already know how Jack would answer it.
Okay.
Yeah, well, we've talked about we're friends.
There's nothing else
We're friends,
for us to
Jack.
talk about that.
We've talked. How much do y'all like alone time, and is it ever too much? Because I know Josh Walters told me one time when he went on his sabbatical, he went to the same place that I went on my first sabbatical, or maybe it was Sam Lesky, both of them very extroverted, and a place that I loved because it was completely secluded. There wasn't any distractions and I was completely by myself. I stayed the whole time that I could, where one of them, if not both of them, bounced like a couple days early because they're like, I just can't take this. It's too much solitude. How much do y'all like alone time?
I mean, I don't know. It varies, I think, depending on how I'm feeling, if I'm tired or something. But I feel like I can, if someone were like, hey, coming over, then I can rally myself up, and then I'm happy that I went to go be around people. But I like my alone time and quiet time. Yeah. I can be quiet.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
I don't think you're a loud person.
I know that might be very surprising to a lot of people, but I can be quiet.
Why are you so defensive? I believe you.
Yeah, you do sound defensive.
Oh, I do?
No, I was just jumping on.
Sorry.
I was just trying to team up with Jack because we're always at odds.
Okay, you agreed with that. Well,
Yeah.
glad I could bring you guys together.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks, Amy. How about you, Lynn?
I like alone time. I think it's unique for me though because I live alone. And so I don't have to get away to do that, but I could go a week in a cabin in the woods by myself and it would be amazing. Yeah.
Wow.
And I just came off of like a 10-day vacation with friends where I was like with people 24/7 for 10 days. So I could go 10 days by myself and it would be great. So I love being with people and I had a great time, but I also, I'm good with being alone.
See, it really is interesting. I think that you guys fit more of a somewhere in the middle where most people that I know, it's one or the other. Like true introverts, I feel like, oh man, you're just speaking my language. Like, somebody any cancellation is a neutral thing. It's never bad news when somebody cancels.
That's true.
It's at the very least neutral.
I don't ever feel neutral. I'm always sad when someone cancels.
I mean, most of the time I'm like, I love them, but that's more time
cancels,
for me.
You know that scene in Sound of the Music where Maria's like spinning in
That's you.
in the mountain wildflowers? That's how I feel every
she's
time.
having to sing the my favorite thing song to me to make me feel better.
So you're saying that you are, would you say that post vacation with your friends, are you recharging now, being back home by yourself?
Yeah.
Is that your go-to recharge? Because if so, that's...
I went, I would say being on the vacation energized me.
Okay.
Yeah, so like being with people, laughing all day long, like that gave me so much energy. But now that I'm back, I'm like, nobody talk to me. Mm-hmm. So.
Gotcha. All right, so I'm going to say it's just kind of sadistic introvertism. What's the
sadistic?
Noun? Is there a noun of introvert? Introvertism? Like if you have an introvert.
Yeah. Introversion.
Introversion. Thanks. Why are you looking at me like I'm that stupid? I don't think everybody...
Well, because before you said, is there a noun for introvert? I'm like, yeah, it's introvert. But then you explained more. I'm like, okay, I see what you're saying.
I know introvert's a noun. You know what I'm saying.
That's what you started to say.
Use your shirt.
Person, place, thing. I get it. I can tell you what an adjective is. Adverb. Adjectives describe a noun. Adverbs describe adjectives or verbs.
That's great. You and my 8-year-old have plenty to talk about.
All right, so listen. This is...
She's tickled.
This is kind of troubling, y'all. So I'm sitting in a waiting room at the doctor's office, and I look up, and this is a guy who I was really close to as a child. So probably it was a church that I went to from the time I was 8 to 16, and I think he was there from the time I was like 8 to 12. And he came over and spent the night. We were really good pals. And the few times that we've interacted on Facebook, it was very fond reconnection, like, so good to reconnect and so glad you're doing well and everything. Y'all, he is sitting in this doctor's office. So he's about as far as Amy is for me, and I realize it's him, and I'm like, I am so drained right now. I don't want to talk to anybody. I am an introvert, so this is kind of where I'm always at, but it's even deeper right now. I can't get into this catch-up conversation. And so, y'all, this is somebody that I love, literally.
Apparently not. The way the story's going.
I met him halfway. I'll tell you what I did, because I also didn't want to miss the opportunity. Y'all, I actually strategize, and I realize when the doctor or the nurse comes out and calls his name, they said his name. I was like, oh my gosh, dude. And then that's because I knew he had to go back, and then I wouldn't have to get into it.
This.
I did not, y'all. And I'm telling you, there are times, because I don't have a shy bone in my body, it wouldn't have been socially awkward for me. There are times and moods where I would have handled it completely opposite. I would have been like, oh my gosh, dude. And I would have enjoyed talking for 30 minutes. But in my headspace, I didn't want to do it, to the point where I strategized so I wouldn't have to do it. Yeah. So I chose.
I do that all the time.
I chose.
And I really like if there have been several times where I see someone, and if I'm feeling drawn, I'll say to myself, if I say hi to them, what kind of interaction are we going to have? And do I have how much do I have to give?
This is
right
what he
now?
says when he sees the church.
And yeah, I will sometimes be like, all right, I do want to say hi, but here's how I'm going to do it. because I really just have nothing to give in terms of like
He
a
picks up
15-minute
his cell phone.
Yes.
He pretend like
And
he's
just
talking
goes
like
like
oh,
this.
hey,
Yeah.
hey, and then you walk away.
Is what he does.
I might.
He does it all the time.
Depending, I might. It just depends. It really depends because I'm the same way. It's like I might see someone and be like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited to see this person, and I'll go up and I can like however long this lasts, I don't care. I'll talk to them forever.
Exactly.
But if I'm not there, I will very much be I want to say hi to them. That's all I have to give right now. How do I make that happen?
Yes or no? Have you ever pretend to be on a cell phone call?
No, because I try to
That's
avoid
a form of lying.
No, well, it is, but I avoid it. I don't avoid it for Christian reasons. I avoid it because it is a bluff that is too easy to be called.
I wonder how many times people have been like, Joey's not on his
Exactly
phone.
right. And
How
so
is it easy to bluff?
Yeah, like
people
if you
do
get
it
a
all the
phone
time.
call, if you get a phone call while you're doing it or something.
The only way in which you do is if you were walking away. But if it's like I can't talk around that, and then you're still there together. It's like, who is that? It's like, oh, great. Well, now I've got to come up with a whole backstory. So no, I wouldn't like. No, I'm not going to lie to the person, but I'm also not going to like again do things that are bluffs that are too easy to call. So because it's not like it has nothing to do with how much I want to talk to them. It has everything to do with how much I feel like I have to give, like of myself right now. Mm-hmm.
How does this resonate with y'all? Like, do y'all think, wow, Joey's really not that great of a guy? That was a great friend in his life, and he chose not to even, like, bottom line is, I didn't engage in a conversation. I said, oh, hey, it's so good to see you. I may have even gotten up and given him a hug, but I knew he was on his way back. Like, is that like, wow, that's good.
I just can't relate to it. I think that's it. It's like I'm not like Joey's a bad person. I just can't wrap my head around it because I'm not like that. So I don't know what. Yeah.
Now, is there ever a time with a dear friend in which you're drained and wish you weren't talking to them?
Yes.
Okay. All right. How about you?
Yeah.
Yeah. So can you take those feelings and translate that to this situation, or this situation is so different because Joey, that's an old friend of yours and you haven't seen him for literally 30 years. Why wouldn't you want to talk extensively?
I mean, I guess I could. I think that I, like, even the idea of, like, thinking of a time when I've been drained and am with someone, I just power through it, even though I'm drained.
Because you're a Christian.
No, it's just because I just power through it. And it may not be as long. I may not sit with them as long as I would. Mm-hmm. I might not, when I'm sitting with someone, I have a lot of energy. I'm not keeping track of time at all. But if I'm drained, it may be, okay, when there's a natural break in the conversation, then I'm going to transition it. But I can't imagine seeing somebody I know in a doctor's office and not like I can't. It doesn't matter how tired I am.
Yeah.
Like pretending like I don't see them until I can't. Like I cannot wrap my head.
Very weird.
I mean, I
If we showed up in a doctor's office and I was like,
I'd be like, what is wrong with you, Liz?
Whoa. That's a different scenario. Okay, here I want to make a
a friend I don't see regularly, someone I don't.
If it was Jack in the office, obviously I would not have done that because I don't feel drained by Jack, and Jack's not going to be disappointed if I sit there quietly because we have relational credibility.
You got to catch
well,
up.
but also because we talk regularly. Yeah. The wild card, the introvert wild card in that scenario is I haven't seen this guy for a long time. I have no idea if I initiate a conversation how long he'll want to talk. I'm not up for that right now. I have been in places where I've seen people, not like as close quarters as a doctor's office, but I've seen people and been like, oh, hey, that's so-and-so. And just thought, it's not done anything. And it's like if they, and it's not because it has nothing to do with like, oh, I don't want to talk to that person. It's, I just don't really feel like saying anything. Mm-hmm. And it has nothing to do with who they are or how I feel about them. Yeah. It's just, I don't know. I just have no interest in kind of any sort of human interaction.
Mm-hmm. And I don't know. I mean, I literally have to chalk it up to chemicals in my head. Like there are literally times when I see someone in the grocery store and I haven't seen them in years, and I'll go right up to them and be like, "Hey, it's so good to see you."
Same.
And then other times I will turn around, walk the other way, and I will be vigilant that I don't accidentally run into that person.
Yeah.
I mean, it
Now,
just...
here's my question for you. So if you're in a conversation and you're ready for it to end, what is your go-to for like stopping a conversation cold? Like the equivalent, like the not equivalent of, I've really enjoyed this, but I'm ready to stop talking to you now.
It's really...
Which I wish I could say out loud.
Yeah.
And no animus, that's how I feel. Like, hey, this has been great, but I'm ready for it to be done now, and just turn and leave. I do have a friend who will do that. And he's one of my favorite people.
Yeah, he's completely honest.
The way he
Why
ends
don't
phone
you do
calls
that?
is he'll go, well, we'll talk, and if he's ready for it to be done, he'll go, oh, okay, well, bye, Jack, and he'll hang up.
I think that's a great friend. Like, we have a friend, like, whenever, like when you're hanging out with someone, you never know when to leave, that awkward thing. Like, you're kind of tired, but are they tired? Do they want to hang out? And we have a friend, same thing. He'll be like, all right, well, it's been good. See y'all later. And then, but we love him because then we never have to guess if we're overstaying our welcome, if he's ready for us to go or not. So you should start saying that.
Well, I do have a friend, a couple's friends, who when we go to their place, when they come over to our place, the husband and I will strategize. All right, like, what time do you want to be out of here?
Yeah.
He's like, what time do you want me out of here? It's like, honestly, like 8. He's like, oh, that sounds amazing. It's like, all right, let's...
That's great that you could do that and be honest. That's perfect. Yeah.
Yeah,
We all should be.
Well, I'm that way in social settings with people I'm close to, and I've had to learn how to adapt because Priscilla is the complete opposite of me. So she can literally hang out with people hours and hours and hours. And so if they're people that we're close to, I will just stand up and be like, it's great seeing y'all. I'm going upstairs. And people are just used to it because they're like, and the close people, they see it. They're like, oh, Joey just hit, they call it, Joey just hit his wall.
Yeah.
Like they can just see it.
Yeah.
And it's like, why don't you just go?
Yeah, that's nice.
All right. Well, let me unpack something with you guys. I've been wanting to talk to podcast friends about this for a while. And it's something, y'all know I do this sometimes. It's something that I wanted to articulate and put it in writing. But I feel like y'all know a lot of my upbringing with legalism and I would say unhealthy religious upbringing. And one thing that was very much so ingrained in me was being a good witness, not being a bad witness. And so I thought about this a lot as I have worked my way out of what I would say is a lot of toxic religion. And how I was taught to apply this was always thinking of my actions and words from the context of what others hear and see. So it's just like whoever I'm around, I need to be careful of what I say and do because people are always watching and always listening. And if you mess up, you could jeopardize how they see the Lord, especially if they know that you're a Christian. So that led to legalism, misses the point of the gospel, led to guilt, constant fear of messing up. And so here's why I think that is completely jacked up and the complete opposite direction of where God wants us to be. It feels like we're making ourselves more significant than God. It seems like the gospel, I would say the gospel power, the power in the gospel, it's not about us. It lives in us, but it's not our job to manufacture it and deliver it in a certain way. And I'll get to what I mean by that. I'm not saying that we shouldn't care about our witness. That's not what I'm saying. But we're not focusing on the right thing. So it's not about whether we'll mess up and hurt others and do what we don't think is good and avoiding the bad. Paul readily admitted that he did things that he didn't want to do, didn't do things that he wanted to do. It's how honest we are with our bent toward making mistakes, our need for a loving God to hold us. It's how quick we say we're sorry and admit when we're wrong. It's how aware we are of our hypocrisy and whether this humbles us. Most importantly, the most significant witness we have is our prioritization of loving God, ourselves, and others. That, in my opinion, is the only witness fitting for who we are and the only one we have a shot at keeping relatively intact. So I'm not saying that we don't have a responsibility with how we present our lives, how we live our lives. I think that is a great testimony that we have of the Holy Spirit working through us. I think where I got it wrong was this striving for perfection in a way of, if I make a mistake, this could actually lead somebody else astray. Whereas I think the gospel is we're all making mistakes constantly, and we all need a savior. So how do we respond to that in front of other people? The worst thing we could possibly do is, in striving for perfection, almost wanting to avoid other people knowing that we're making mistakes, because then that's no testimony to saving grace and what God is doing in our lives. The last thing that I'll say, and I heard someone say this recently, and I won't say what it was about because he may listen to the podcast and know I'm talking about him. But something was said along the lines of Christians being set apart. And I was always taught that was the kind of music you listen to and the places where you go, the people that you hang out with, you got to be set apart. And I'm thinking, how much more set apart in this day and age can you be with just prioritizing love and really trying to show people the love of Christ? Like, that to me is the biggest way to be set apart, not necessarily with the details of how we do our lives, because we're going to make mistakes. Anybody? You agree? Disagree?
I mean, you said a lot of stuff, and so I don't know that I can agree, disagree about all of it. I will say the set apart thing, I do think it depends on where the culture you live in. So like for the early church, where they went, what they participated in was an enormous part of being set apart. They wouldn't participate. Like one of the charges against them by the Romans is like, you guys hate humanity, because they didn't participate in a lot of like civic activities. Often because it involved, worshiping cults or sacrificing. It's like, so they couldn't participate. So I do think there are some cases where being set apart genuinely means you do not participate in significant portions of what your culture does. I think there are certainly ways in which that should probably be true of our culture. But I would say it's not nearly as clear cut as I think some people want to make it. I do, my non-serious, jokey response to some of what you said is this thing is like I think all those things are good, but if you're an actual witness in a court case, they don't really care about any of that stuff. It's, what do you have to say, and are you telling me the truth?
Mm-hmm.
What did you see? Right? Tell me everything you saw to the best of your ability. And so I think, when it comes to being a witness, again, I do think it depends. One thing I thought of for me is there's a guy I know, he's an internet friend. Like, he doesn't know what I mean by internet friend. Like, I've met him once in real life, but like really the connection we have is like just, online. And he's an atheist who was raised evangelical, and he didn't deconstruct, right? He just like left, like he just, and it was also like an abusive upbringing, like, religiously and spiritually abusive. And so, I think a lot about him because it's like, he knows the Bible about as well as I do. Like, honestly, he's an extremely intelligent guy. He's not, there's some like internet atheists who like confidently talk about things that, and so obviously like, you have never even been in the same room as a Bible. You don't know what you're talking about. Well, he knows what he's talking about. He genuinely does. He was in it. He was a good Christian kid until he moved out. So what does it mean to witness to him? Like, there's not a whole lot I can say to him he doesn't already know. And so, I think, what does witness mean for him? And kind of the conclusion I have is, or at least now is, I can be someone who doesn't reject him for having left. I can, I can also, be obviously me and not, trying to be performative or put on a mask, which is why, like in a different segment, I talked about like some of my issues with performative Christianity in any direction. Cause I think just all that's just all garbage. And so I try to be as like real as I can. Cause again, he knows what I believe. He knows a lot of it as well as I do. And so what does it being a witness mean to him? It's not necessarily the same thing as what it means to be a witness to someone who like doesn't know a single thing about Christianity. I think they can mean something else. For them, like, honestly, how you live your life might not have a whole lot of relevance. It might really be down to, I need you to tell me things I've never heard anyone else say before.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just think that, like, I remember when I was in college, a friend and I were talking with some girls from one of the other dorms, and they were excited because they're like, we met this guy at a coffee shop, and we think, like, we talked to him for like an hour, and we really think we got through to him. And we're just like, as they described the conversation, as they described the whole thing, it's like, honestly, it really sounds like he thought you guys were cute and he had a chance. and I'm just like, not trying to pop bubbles, but it's like the kind of witnessing is probably not the, like, I'm just going to be myself and have a really good conversation with you. Sometimes that is what people need, but it's not all the time what people need. And I think if we try to do a witnessing means this and only this, I do think you can miss some opportunities. And also, I think it's a way to get hung up on some of the stuff that you were talking about.
Yeah, like when I was young, it was, see, I'm perfect, so be a Christian.
Right.
See? Instead of, hey, I really made a mistake and let you down. I'm very, very sorry. Like, please forgive me. Like, that to me is a better witness than, oh no, I'm great.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the first one's not genuine. And so it like, you're not witnessing to Christ, because if you're perfect and everything's perfect, then you don't need him. Mm-hmm. And so you're not actually displaying to the world the reality of our faith.
I've heard, and we can wrap it here, I don't know if y'all think that this is a relevant point, but when it comes to how I was taught to be a good witness and not be a bad witness, Jesus didn't do that. So, for example, don't drink alcohol in public, was the mantra for most people in my evangelical culture 20 years ago. And it was because somebody else could think that drinking's okay, which, okay, in moderation, it is for a lot of people. But don't do it because you could lead someone astray. In the gospel, it says Jesus came eating and drinking, and they called him a glutton and a drunkard. So you would imagine that he was aware of what people were thinking, and yet he still, it seemed like, was partying with, and obviously Jesus wasn't sinning. He wasn't getting drunk. He wasn't being a glutton, but his actions looked like that to people, and I don't think Jesus really cared. Didn't seem like it. But y'all think, that's probably a little far-fetched. You like it?
Mm-hmm, I do.
Sweet.
My stomach's growling now that you're talking about food. Did you hear it? Does the mic pick that up? Sorry about that.
All right, well, it's Lisa Limehouse. Unbelievable story of reconciliation, and you got to check out Beauty Beyond Betrayal. Refer people to it who are going through marriages where betrayal has happened. Seems like she's up to some good stuff, her and her husband. Welcome to the Seacoast podcast, and we're excited to be here with Lisa Limehouse. And I'll tell you what's up, patrons, for some of you that are watching live. I didn't tell you that we could be live, but it's just probably handfuls, don't it? Does that make you more nervous, right? Yeah, you're like, of course not.
Of course not.
Of course not. So if you want to be a patron, we'd love the support. It honestly is, because all of it, every dime, we don't even use your money for the credit card processing. Every single penny goes to our efforts in prisons, local prisons. We got Jim Wright, who spearheads it, and there's some. I actually got to go to one of the prisons, and the work that is being done by this church, mainly through the efforts of Jim Wright and the church's backing, is just unbelievable. So if you give $10, you get extra episodes. You also get live feeds. That's why I'm saying hello to the patrons. But Lisa, you were on episode 150. It was with Tim and Rebecca's Unstoppable Growth. We brought, I think, 5 people. You were one of them, to just kind of share how Unstoppable Growth has been a help, and just going into those sorts of stories. And we just dipped a toe in your story, and here you are leading a whole ministry called Beauty Beyond Betrayal. And so I'd love to just start by just seeing how you're doing. Are you doing all right? Everything, life treating you all right?
Life is beautiful, and let me just say thank you. It is such an honor to be back. Mm-hmm. It is a privilege to be on here and just really share with everyone just what God's doing. Let's just say it as it is.
Yeah.
Life is good. We are busting at the seams. We actually have a waiting list right now. It's been crazy lately, just the influx of women and couples.
Yeah.
Since I was last year.
Tell people what the waiting list for what?
Yes.
I think I have a feel, but what's the waiting list?
So we have 2 programs under the umbrella of Beauty Beyond Betrayal. So Beauty Beyond Betrayal was established 5 years ago when God called me to start a podcast after being in Unstoppable.
Okay.
As a way of, he just spoke to my heart and said, this is your platform. This is what I want you to use to speak to Christian women and couples who are dealing with the devastation of marital betrayal. So there's an epidemic of marital betrayal, and the uptick hit during COVID.
Whoa.
I can tell you that when we went into lockdown, is actually that old adage of once a cheater, always a cheater became a reality that for a child of God that doesn't apply. Because when Jesus says, I've come to set you free, he does set us free. He found out about the betrayal. I started Googling some things, trying to find some self-help stuff. And lo and behold, I did a search on infidelity, marital infidelity. And there were over 900,000 hits the day that I did that.
Oh my gosh.
On that day.
On that day?
On that day. On that day. And since then, we've been kind of keeping track of some of this. And for those who have come out of the COVID epidemic, we saw such an uptick in marital infidelity, not just in pornography, but also in affairs. So we just saw this huge uptick. And
those are the ones that have confessed.
Yes.
That doesn't even include the ones that most people try to keep it a secret.
Absolutely.
So I would venture to guess, I hate even saying it, but probably above half.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah. And the most recent stats that I pulled, just within the church, and it hurts my heart so much to say, but just within the church is 56%.
All right. So when you say 56% in the church, does that mean pornography, emotional affairs, or are you talking full-blown adultery?
Well,
let me
just, I would love to speak into that really quick. Okay. So betrayal includes pornography, emotional affairs, and physical affairs.
Gotcha.
Adultery includes pornography, emotional affairs, and physical. It's all inclusive.
Yeah.
So we really need to call it as it is. And unfortunately,
well, let me ask you, do you mind if I kind of,
please,
this is just
let's
good.
do it. Let's do it.
Wouldn't you say, because I'm right there with you, but wouldn't you say the impact of a physical affair is usually greater than something else? So, for example, if my wife were to see, gosh, Joey has pictures of naked women on his phone, that would be something for her to have to process. We'd have to talk it through, maybe talk to a pastor, whatever. If she walks in on me and I'm actually with a woman, that seems catastrophic, more so than what pornographic pictures. But maybe that's just because of who she is. Maybe it depends on the woman.
It depends on the woman, and it depends on past little traumas.
Okay.
So there's little T's and big T's, right? Betrayal is a big T. So it depends on what she's come through in her life. So one woman may have her husband looking at pornography and find out that her husband's been struggling with pornography, let's say 10 years of a 20-year relationship. And for her, it's the worst thing in the world, and it sets her back to where she's struggling to think, can I ever trust him again? Will I ever be able to? Because she can't get some of the images out of her mind that she's trying to now compete with. Then you have the woman with an emotional affair. Depending upon what her background is, her thought process is, my husband connected with another woman emotionally. How am I going to compete with that, right? Or now you've got the physical affair. the woman who maybe walked in, or she now knows, like I did, that my husband had been with someone for 2.5 years and developed a relationship.
Right.
Like there were I love yous, we're soulmates, like it was deep, right? And in the church at that.
Yeah.
So then you have the woman who has that kind of betrayal and says, oh my gosh, how are we ever going to? So again, it depends on the woman's background.
Yeah, I'm astonished with how you just described what happened with you and your current husband. I'm astonished that you guys are now ministering to others. Like that it had to have been a miracle.
Absolutely.
I mean, because if I found out that Priscilla had been cheating for that long and there was I love yous and stuff, the Spirit would have to step in, because I'd be like, I can't be on this journey with her.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm out. God, you got to correct me if I'm wrong.
I can only say that it was a miracle of God. Mm-hmm. Now, I will take you back, and I was the betrayer at 25. This is before a relationship with Jesus Christ. I knew
Different guy?
Yes.
Gotcha.
I knew Jesus. I was brought up going to church and Sunday school and all this stuff, but I didn't have a relationship with him. And so at the age of 25, I was the adulteress, cheated on my girl's dad, and lived just in the mire for 5 years. Through that, God saved me, radically saved me. And that old adage of once a cheater, always a cheater became a reality that for a child of God, that doesn't apply. Because when Jesus says, I've come to set you free, he does set us free. And he also makes us free. So there's that sanctification process that we go through, right? So for me, I truly had a heart transformation, was completely, totally different woman. Fast forward to when my husband cheated.
We're talking 20 years later, 30 years?
So I was 30. I'm 63.
Okay.
So this was 5 years ago, right? In my 50s. I had lost my mom. I had lost my dad 6 weeks to the day.
Gosh.
I had lost my natural dad, lost my mother-in-law, my grandmother, all of this in a 2-year period.
6 months, you lost your dad, then 6 months later you found out about the infidelity?
Yes.
You must have been thinking, like, when you lost your dad, okay, this has been horrible. I lost my mom and dad. Now I'm going to put the pieces back together.
Like
and
all
then 6
5
months
of these,
later.
all five of these deaths. Then all of a sudden, I'm finding out that my husband had an affair.
Years.
He had been in an affair 2.5 years with someone in the church. And I hired somebody to help me find out. Because I will tell you, God is so good. Let me just say this. God is so good. Women who have what they call a gut check, a women's intuition, or even a man for that matter, who their spouse is really being unfaithful, the Holy Spirit is going to speak to them. And January the 12th of 2020, I'm in my home. I'm walking across my bedroom, and I hear the Lord speak to my heart. Britt has broke his vows. And I grabbed my gut because I knew that voice.
Dang.
And I was like, no, this cannot be.
I think God only does that with some people. That's so cool. Like, I think there's been times where I can't shake, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure this is God, but I don't think there's ever been a time where just spoken and then, I mean, because you knew it was God to the level of you emotionally reacted.
I emotionally reacted, like grabbed my gut, and I was like, no. And so I knew. So I started on this journey and asked him about it. He denied it. He actually turned the tables around and said, you must be the one having the affair, which is a lot of gaslighting, a lot of manipulation, blame shifting. We see that with betrayal. And then, lo and behold, I hired someone, and April 3rd, I received a phone call, and they said, check your email. You have all the information you need. And I remember going, oh my gosh, it is true. And for an hour, I paced in my dining room with my laptop open going, no, hit the button, no, hit the button, no, hit the button. And finally, an hour later, I hit the button, and just all of the information came flooding in. All of the social media, between the two of them, text messages, all this stuff, the I love yous, the you're my soulmate, the twistedness of how Satan gets in with sexual sin of we are praying about our union. Like it got dark. But that's how Satan works. You know, there's one sin in the Bible that we are told to flee from. Like that word flee means like run for your life.
Like Joseph did in the Old Testament.
Yes, like run, like leave everything behind. It's sexual sin. Why? Because it affects you physically and it affects you spiritually.
Yeah, and it once you've given in at any level, it's just so seductive.
Yes.
I mean, I can't think of a better word. It's seductive. It seduces
absolutely.
you.
It does. And I remembered there. But I say all that to say, you know, when I found out about the affair, I immediately went to, I forgive you, just in the affair. And he was so deep. He looked right at me and said, I can't. Now,
He can't come back to you.
I'm a broken mess.
Yeah.
I am in the floor in front of him saying, just end it. I'll forgive you. And he's just with no emotion, just looking at me going, I can't.
Now, did you take that, or now looking back and having talked to your husband who you're still married to, was it callousness or was it just, I can't face you? Like, I care about you and I can't even face it, so I just have to be stoic.
It was a hardening of the heart. So I like to call it the infidelity bubble. That's the terminology I use. So when you have someone who is deeply engrossed in sexual sin, be it pornography, emotional affair, physical affair, there's this fantasy escapism bubble that they live in because that's not reality. That's actually an escape. Okay, there's
It's a drug.
It is a drug, and it hits the dopamine receptors in the brain just like cocaine, right? It hits the dopamine receptor. So you have someone who is just going after that hit, and when life gets hard, they know where to escape to. So they get so involved in it to where they desire the drug or the hit more, and they can't leave until something dramatic, it's like the pain of the loss has to be greater than the temporary pleasure hit that they are receiving. And for my husband, it came 1.5 years later when I filed for divorce and said, you're getting served tomorrow.
Now, for that 1.5 years, I'm sure everybody's wondering, and if it's okay if it's none of their business, but for that 1.5 years, were you all in the same house, or did
No,
you? Okay.
we separated. So April 3rd, 2020, I found out. July 11th of 2020, I moved out. I left my home, moved into an apartment, and the Lord told me. He said, "You need to separate," because my husband would not stop the affair. So every couple of weeks, he was bouncing back and forth between us. He would tell me he quit, and then he would go back, tell me he quit. And they got very good. They didn't get burner phones, but they had all kinds of ways to where they were harder to track. So I moved out, and periodically we'd see each other. We came to Seacoast for counseling. And we had some sessions, and I actually at that time had one of the counselors look at me and say, he's hardened. Like, you need to figure out what you're going to do, honey. And he was. Like, he was hardened.
And you would say and we're open here. Nobody thinks this church is perfect and everybody makes good decisions. But you would say at the time that counselor was probably right on.
They were 100%
From what they
right.
saw, they're like, hey, you got to get out because he's done.
100% right.
Yeah.
And the reason why I agree with that, and there are times that in the Marriage Redesign program, which is underneath our Beauty Beyond Betrayal program, that is for our married couples, the Marriage Redesigned. There are times that I walk couples through what's called a therapeutic separation, thus the word therapeutic, where we actually design a plan. We have a time period. We design the plan of, okay, are you going to have an in-home separation? Or are you going to live separately for this amount of time? And during this time period, what are we going to be working on? Because the goal is reconciliation on the other side of this. That is the goal.
So a couple's not going to enter into this unless that's what they want.
That is the goal, right. And that we've walked a number of couples through that process, and we have seen reconciliation on the other side. Why does it work that way? Well,
let me ask you this. So you're not a general couples are going to get a divorce because of finances or because of communication. You're specifically unfaithfulness. Like that's the sort of couples you focus on, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Now we do, I will tell you that we periodically will see couples that say, we're in a rut. Mm-hmm. We are fighting about all kinds of things. There's no infidelity, but we're like roommates.
Yeah.
Right? And we need help with this. And periodically we will take couples and do what's called a 2-day marriage reboot, a marriage intensive. And we've seen couples absolutely turn around in that intensive. Yep. So those are times that we do that, yes. Because some of the same techniques that we use to specialize in infidelity can help pull couples out of harsh circumstances.
Yeah. And I hear that you work with couples and women. So what does it look like when you're why specify women? Are there women whose husbands won't come with them or they're already done and so you're going to walk them through the heartache?
So we have women show up, and that's how we started. So I started initially while I was still separated from my husband. Mm-hmm. So in that apartment, the Beauty Beyond Betrayal podcast started. And I started working with women who were also walking through betrayal with a proven roadmap. Like God had taken me through a roadmap, and I saw major healing myself. And so I started working with women in this 6-month roadmap. And so a lot of the women that would show up, their husbands were either not ready to face the facts. They weren't ready to give up the pornography. They had an affair. They stopped the affair, but they weren't willing to step into help right now. They were like, let's just sweep it under the rug. Let's get over it. But the women knew that they were so broken by this. That
I don't understand how
care.
Anybody thinks you can sweep an affair under the rug. I really don't.
You'd be surprised.
Yeah, and another thing that I don't, and sorry for interrupting you again, but I am surprised at times when I think the person thinks they're going to get away with it. Like, you can just keep it a secret forever. And then why would you want to be in the marriage? Right.
And that's why, when we start working with couples, we'll let them know, for the one who is the unfaithful, there's a twofold responsibility that we need to take. So it's a double-sided coin. Mm-hmm. So the first side is we take full responsibility for the action of the betrayal. So, it's not blamed on the marriage. It's not blamed on the spouse. Like, this was my brokenness that led me to go against my own moral values and to seek this. I could have stepped away from the marriage, but I chose to do this knowing that it would hurt you. And when I have an unfaithful look at me and say, well, I didn't realize how much it would hurt them. Oh, yes, you did. That is just what I call justification or an excuse. And so I'm very forthright with that. I'm like, until you can step into truth, you're not going to get set free from really what is deep inside of you.
Yeah.
The second side of that coin is taking full responsibility for the impact, the emotional impact that it has had on the betrayed spouse. The devastation, the pain, the suffering, the traumatic event that they've experienced. So we help the unfaithful to recognize this through a process called the full disclosure process, where we come to the table and they write out a full timeline of their sexual indiscretion. They bring it to the table. Their betrayed spouse can ask questions that go along with that. So in one therapeutic setting, the betrayed spouse whose mind is trying to put all the pieces together because her mind is like, what just happened to me? None of this makes sense. This full therapeutic disclosure helps the spouse put everything in order.
Gosh, so that was going to be one of my questions is, I guess that's a necessary, painful process. Because I was going to ask, is there anything good about knowing all the details?
Well, what we do is we help with identifying the healing questions that are going to help you in the healing process, and the traumatizing questions of the minute details that you do not need to know in order to heal. You don't need to know all the gross details. Some women, unfortunately, by the time they get to me, they have asked all those questions and it imprints on the brain, and we have to work harder to get through some of those images that they now have imprinted.
So we'll put a little warning at the beginning of this episode as far as it being PG-13. So you would say yes, as far as frequency and where'd you have to travel? What sort of money did you have to spend?
Yes.
You know, how far did it go? But not the minute details of what touched what and all of that stuff. You just don't need to.
That.
Right.
Yes, you do not.
What would you tell a woman if she's like, I have to know? What would you tell her?
Oh, I'm immediately looking at her saying, in order for us to do a full therapeutic, grab that word, honey, a therapeutic disclosure, in order for you to heal properly, you need to really stick to the questions that are going to heal you, because these are not going to imprint on your brain. They're going to put the files back in order of the file. Like your brain, when you've been traumatized by betrayal, it's like a tornado has come through and blown all the memory center wide open.
Yeah.
The healing questions help you to put the files back in their proper order. It gives closure, thus full therapeutic disclosure. You asked something that gives you a visual that can now have the imagination attached to it with a movie. You have imprinted the brain, and that does not go away. It takes a longer time to get that out of the mindset, and that's going to be there forever. So I walk her through that privately. So what they do is the women bring the questions to me. I separate them, and I say, okay, these are the ones we're going to allow in the disclosure. Now you and I are going to work through these. And what I do is when they say, well, I need to know what positions they used, I'm like, what's the motive?
Yeah.
What is your motive,
It just
honey?
feels self-inflicted, like
Right.
self-inflicted pain.
So I help them come to the realization that what they are actually doing is self-inflicting that pain. And by the time I end that therapeutic session with them, they're like, you're right, Lisa, I don't need this. So I help them, I deep dive with that. After we do therapeutic disclosure, then we do what's called the emotional impact statement, where now the betrayed spouse writes this document and says, based upon what I know, this is how it has affected my life in every area. What that does is it gives a voice to her pain. And what it does for the unfaithful spouse is it gives them the opportunity to actually experience that pain, sometimes for the very first time.
Are there any, so I know that your focus is on couples and women, but given just this is kind of your expertise, it's what you spend tons of time going, I'd love to know, you're a betrayal trauma specialist. I mean, you're neck deep in this.
Yeah.
Is there any stark differences between male and female when they're the ones cheated on? Like, is there anything that's very common to males? Like, I wouldn't think so. I would see a guy falling into the same trap. I got to know. What'd you do with that dude? You know, I got to know everything. I could see myself being like that.
Yeah.
But is there anything where you're just like, that's so interesting how men and women are so different when it comes to a post-affair? Or
Men are more likely to want to get over it quickly
without doing the hard work?
versus the women want to be able to heal properly.
Gotcha.
Okay? Men want to move on. They're like, you did me wrong. Now, they still have it swimming in their mind, and they're dealing with a lot of pain. But unfortunately, and this is where I'll deep dive just a minute, unfortunately, society has done just an injustice to men who are betrayed, I believe.
I was just reading about this.
Yeah, they've done an injustice to men by saying, okay, the masculinity thing. And yes, men are strong and they are masculine and they're protectors and they're providers and all. But men get wounded and men hurt. I devastated my first husband when I betrayed him. He didn't deserve that. Not at all. And I can say that now because I'm healed from that. Back then, I would blame shift and say it was a bad marriage and all those things. And I really, really, really hear me from the bottom of my heart when I say this. No one, I don't care how bad the marriage is, no one deserves betrayal. You have the opportunity, if you are even thinking about cheating on your spouse, walk away, do the right thing, but do not put them through that because it will forever wound them.
So it would be, and I'm kind of just speaking out logic here, what you just said, it would be better for a husband or a spouse to go to their spouse and say, listen, I'm really interested in another person. We haven't crossed any boundaries, but I'm sorry, I'm not in this marriage anymore. And that's just how it's going to have to be. That would be less painful than to discover it on your own that there's been actual lying and deceit and hiding.
Because the deceit, when it comes to the actual sexual sin, across the board, every woman or man who has been betrayed will tell you, while the sexual sin in and of itself, be it pornography or an affair, is extremely devastating, the deception is the hardest thing to get over.
Wow.
It's the deception. Because it is so secretive. And to think that the one that you trusted deceived you at that kind of level, that's the hardest thing to get over. That's why it is a miracle. Every couple that comes to us and every couple that we see God put back together is an absolute miracle, because it does take a miracle to rebuild that kind of trust, to get over that kind of deception, to get over the imprint of the images and the imagination. Because don't think that the enemy doesn't come at you. Like, I'm 5 years into this healing process, right? And there are still days where all of a sudden I'll have an image come into my head and I'm like, whoa, at the most inopportune times, right? But what do my husband and I do about that? We actually bring it into the light. Because remember, the darkness is the devil's domain. You cannot fight the devil in the dark. That's his domain. So what do? You bring it into the light. So we bring these things into the light. If I have any image come into my head or any thought, I immediately go to my husband and go, this came to me, and I don't want the devil to get a foothold. We'll sit down, discuss it. We pray about it, heal, we move on.
Yeah.
Now, it took healing to get there, but I can tell you that every time my husband has stepped into my pain, that is another droplet of trust that he has built back. And that's how you rebuild the trust. Right?
Yeah.
Over time.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to make a guess, and I don't think you nor I could really answer it because I haven't experienced unfaithfulness from my spouse or losing a spouse, but I would venture to guess that it's different pain, but it's just as painful to be cheated on than to actually lose your spouse. I bet you it would be comparable.
Well, let me just say this. There is a different grief when it comes to losing a loved one versus the grief of betrayal. So when you have grief from the loss of a loved one, let's say a spouse, right? Society knows how to step into that with you. We bring people food, we mourn with them,
gosh.
we do
That's
all
a
of
really
these
good
things,
point.
right? We know how to step into that, and we know how to help someone process that loss. Betrayal grief is what's called disenfranchised grief. People don't know how to step into that with someone who has experienced that. So they are so discombobulated, they're like, I'm mourning someone who's alive. I'm mourning someone who I'm looking at and I know this person, but I don't know this person. I'm mourning a marriage that I thought would last forever, but is now dead, but yet we're trying to rebuild it. Like what? And it just causes such chaos. Mm-hmm. So after we finish the full disclosure process I was talking about, and we get them through that last step of what's called restitution, we then enter them into the disenfranchised grief process.
Gotcha.
We help them walk through what it's like to actually heal that kind of grief. So how we do that is, when you have a couple who is dealing with betrayal, there's this story of us that they both know, right? They both are living it. However, there's also an underlying story, the story that only the unfaithful knew. And on the day of discovery, both those worlds collided. Okay. And a lot of times, the unfaithful spouse is like, okay, let's just get back on the bandwagon. Let's just continue the story of us. But you can't do that. Why? Because the marriage vows have been broken. That covenant has disintegrated. We need a new covenant to move forward. So what we do in that exercise of bringing that grief together is we have the couple do an exercise where they both come in and the betrayed spouse actually does a timeline of what she knew the story to be. The unfaithful spouse does the story of the underneath. We bring them together and we then take some of their stories that collide, memories, and we say, okay, here's the memory that you both are dealing with and you don't know what to do with because there's so much grief to tell.
Such hard work. You're just saying this. I'm like, gosh, that would be hard. Oh.
Yeah. So let's say it's a birthday of when their daughter was 2.
Mm-hmm.
And the wife now looks at that picture and says, oh my gosh, you were cheating on me and you actually called her from that birthday party, right? And she's looking at these memories going, what do I do with this? Because it's my daughter's birthday, but yet there's so much pain there. What we do is we help them to say, what about that memory needs to actually die and be buried? We actually have a funeral for it. And what does God want to redeem? So what are some things that need to die? The deception. The fact that he was calling someone that shouldn't have been a part of that. That person, the affair person, needs to die off, right? The pain, right, of that betrayal. The fact that he was untrustworthy. So we call these things out. These are the things that need to die. What do you as a couple see in that memory that you desire God to redeem? It was our daughter's 2nd birthday. The celebration for her was so beautiful.
Yeah.
Now, do you want the enemy to steal that, or do you want God to redeem it? We want God to redeem it.
Mm-hmm.
So we separate the things that need to die and they need to grieve. And then once we compile all these, then they grieve as a couple. They have a funeral for it. And then we start building a brand new marriage on the other side. That's when we bring them into a 2-day intensive. We do a marriage reboot. We start working on the different avenues, and then we take them on the other side.
Can anybody do the whole process online?
Not the reboot. The reboot, we bring them in town, and they were working with us in person.
Gotcha. But you have anybody who's listening right now could get in touch with you and, and get on a waiting list at the very least to engage online.
Yes. So we have couples all across the globe. Presently, we have Ireland, Zimbabwe, we have South Africa, we have Germany, we have all across the United States.
There's unfaithfulness in other countries?
Oh, it is an epidemic. Especially, there's an uptick in the church.
Yeah. Yeah, that's that stat of, what'd you say again?
56%.
56%. Do you have a lot of people that, I would guess once people reach out to you, they're probably motivated, because that's a big step to say, okay, we're really going to get involved in trying to reconcile. But do you ever have couples that are just like, this is just too hard, we're done? Like,
in the years that I've been doing this, I can count on one hand how many couples that haven't made it.
That's huge.
Through our
that
program.
Shows some effectiveness.
We have a 99% success rate.
Wow.
Yes.
Of reconciled marriages that stay married.
We are so proud of that stat, because only God. Okay, let's give credit where credit is due. Only God. Jesus healed mind, body, and spirit. He healed the entire person. We follow his example. So we work on rewiring the brain according to Scripture, right? through somatics, helping the body to release the pent-up trauma that their body is actually sick with, because trauma does get housed in the body. We also reconnect them back to God and spiritually together. We walk them through a process of biblical intimacy. The world is upside down. They think intimacy is sex. That is not true biblical intimacy. Yes, it's a part of it, but it's not all-inclusive. So we walk them through these things, and that's why we have the success rate that we have.
Yeah.
So when they come to us, yes, most of them are ready. The times that we see that they don't make it is usually we have someone who's diagnosed narcissistic, or we have someone who, I look for something called the shift. God gave this to me many, many years ago in The Unfaithful, where we now see the heart transformation take place instead of just behavior modification of just ticking off a list. And it usually needs to come at a certain point, and if we don't see it at that certain point, we face that together. And that's when I have a hardcore conversation with the unfaithful. Mm-hmm. And that's either the crux in the road, where they go, you know what, I'm just not in it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I've only had that a few times.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember that. I remember sitting across from a husband. It was kind of like, man, if you want this marriage to, I'd been working with this couple for a long time, just from a pastoral perspective. And the last time I talked to him, I was just like, you got to do this and do this and do this, as far as like, unconditional love. And honestly, I probably wasn't giving him the greatest, fullest advice, especially that many years ago. But I remember him looking, he's just like, dude, I'm sorry, I don't have it in me. It's just like and it almost was like a quick shift. It's just like, don't have it in me.
And I believe that comes from this mindset, unfortunately, that society has just ingrained in us, that it's all about us. Mm-hmm. It's that me monster, right? It's all about me. But in marriage, it's not all about me. It's about the one that God brought to me as a gift. And in marriage, what our thought process and our heart stance should be is, well, God woke me up today. How can I love him or her better today? What can I do to make them realize how much I love them? How can I serve them today? When we take it off of ourselves and then we look at the gift that God has given to us, and we recognize that we are to steward that gift well, it changes the perspective of the relationship. And that's what we seek to help couples do, is to realize if you've entered into marriage for yourself, you entered in for the wrong reasons. Yeah. Let's change that perspective and let's do it biblically here.
Yeah. This has been a hard conversation as far as the realities of infidelity, but very easy to talk to. I mean, I'd love to get into some stats, and then maybe you tell what you think. Are you surprised by any of them? And please even feel free to disagree. So I'll cite my source in the show notes, but it's basically from a family law firm, and it was like 75 surprising fact, and I thought some of them were good, but one of them is nearly 20% of marriages affected by infidelity. I would say, do you think that's pretty low?
That's low.
20%?
That's low.
Yeah, you think more?
Yes.
And I was going to ask, do you think that it at one point was more accepted? Because women, they weren't in full-fledged out in the workforce, so they kind of didn't have a choice. It seems like back in the day, it's just like, yeah, everybody knew JFK had Marilyn Monroe. And I mean, I actually recently heard that he was actually like a sex addict. Like, I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
But it just seemed like the old-timey movies and stuff. Men just had mistresses. And if the woman really wanted to do something about it, what could she do? Financially being let go of, if she wanted to leave her husband. But I would say it's probably almost, would you say acceptable is a good word? That back then
I think
it kind
it
of was
tolerated.
Tolerated, okay.
I think that's a better word.
Yeah, because no wife is like, oh, he has his mistress. That's awesome.
No. It's definitely not accepted. It's tolerated. Even the marriages, I would say marriages that were built on finances, right? We just got into this marriage because of money. it's still tolerated. Because at the end of the day, when a wife is faced with infidelity, it creates an identity crisis for her. Now she looks at herself and says, was I not enough? Is something wrong with me? Severe body image issues. It attacks their self-worth, their self-esteem, right? And I hate using that word self because we are in such a selfie world nowadays, but it's true. It attacks a woman at the core. It alters your reality. Mm-hmm. So any woman faced with adultery, infidelity, is going to have an identity crisis. Whether or not she's like, I'll tolerate it because I want to stay in this marriage because of the money, she's still going to struggle.
This just popped in my head, is there ever a time when, because you and I would both agree, and you've made this abundantly clear, and I agree, nobody deserves to be cheated on, regardless of how bad the marriage is, but is there ever a time when you would talk to a man or woman and say, listen, he or she should not have cheated on you, you don't deserve that, but there's some things to consider on your end of how it got to that point. It's not your fault. Right. He or she made the decision and they shouldn't. But is there ever a time where you try to gently prod them to realize, hey, you shut her out emotionally, or you weren't having sex with them, or, whatever it is, there ever a time when you try to open their eyes to some responsibility?
Absolutely. So what we do is once we get through the elephant in the room of the betrayal, right, that pain, and we're moving forward, and then we start the build back process where we're building this new relationship. They are desiring to come back into covenant with each other and have a better marriage, beauty beyond betrayal, right? So at that point, that's where we start to look at the different areas of their marriage prior to the betrayal. Yep. Yes. So we'll go back and look at communication, finances, how was their sex life, all of this stuff. And the problems prior to the betrayal, that's when we address it and say, okay, these can't go into this new relationship. Now, while they didn't contribute to his choice or her choice, because that's a free will choice, that still was an issue that can't move into this new relationship.
Yep. Cheating is more common in relationships lasting over 10 years. I found that makes sense. It says relationship boredom and dissatisfaction often increases over time. Couples may experience a decline in sexual frequency and quality after many years together. While not inevitable, these statistics highlight the importance of ongoing effort and communication and maintaining long-term relationship satisfaction. What do you think about that? Like, I would say marriages 5 years or less, probably a lot less common. But then I also read where some people cheat before they're even married.
Yes. So I have quite a few couples that I'm working with now that I met with one this morning, actually, before this. 6 months into their engagement was his first cheating. And 6 months after they got married was the second one. So, it's not uncommon that it happens prior to marriage, right? Or even in the early years. We have another couple that just been married 2 years, right? It's not just infidelity in the sense of an affair. We see a lot of deep-rooted pornography issues too. And so we see those that, they've been married 2 years, and unfortunately, there is a deep-rooted sexual addiction that goes back to the age of 9 that we're now working with. So, we see, and you said this earlier, sexual addiction, when you were talking about JFK, I call sexual addiction across the board for pornography and or affairs. And the reason why is because when someone's in an active affair, it hits the brain the same way that pornography does, that a sexual addiction does. They become addicted to that person, to that rush of the deception, the secrets, the lies, the dopamine rush of being with that person. That's why it's hard to leave the affair.
Yeah.
It becomes addictive.
Yeah.
So anyone who is dealing with sexual addiction through pornography and or an affair, they also have to go through a detox process. My husband went through a 16-month detox process to get her out of his head. 16 months.
16 months. Wow.
And that's hard on the betrayed
So that was like
spouse.
professional guidance? Is that what you're saying,
And
Nikki?
us working through it as
Gotcha.
well. There were times when I would see him in a staring off glaze, and I knew, and I would lovingly go to him and go, "How you doing over there?" And he'd go, "I'm sorry." And I'm like, "No, let's talk it through. Like, that's the only way this is going to really work." Like, and so we work together through that. We help couples to work through that. It's not always easy.
So you were strong enough for him to be able to say, "I really miss her." Like, is that? Gosh, that.
That's why I said only God.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, we do a lot of that in session with couples. So, and it does help to have that third party there, because some couples just can't do it like that. It's just too hard.
So episode 90, we had like a little debate on the Billy Graham rule. Are you familiar with that? I'll tell our listeners. So Billy Graham at one point said that he makes it a practice not to eat with women alone, drive with women alone, and travel and that sort of thing. Some people would say that's very wise and a good thing to do to keep out of trouble, where there's also people of the opinion that that is actually a little archaic and men need to have a little more control over themselves, and it sets women back. So, for example, in ministry, when I was a pastor, I could take any of the guys that worked under me out for lunch, but I'm not going to do that with a lady who's just as qualified and just as gifted in ministry. And I read where most affairs start with a friendship.
Yep.
Affairs are most common in the workplace. 44% of cheating men had an affair with someone at work. So I'm curious, what do you think about the Billy Graham rule? As far as a guy, someone like me, so let's just say after this podcast, I mean, I trust you. You're obviously helping couples, and you were to say, "Hey, I'd love to talk more about podcasting. You want to grab a cup of coffee?" Billy Graham rule would say, "I'm not going to do that,"
and
because you and I are spending time.
I would tell you I probably wouldn't do that.
Yeah. I agree. I agree.
just wouldn't.
And I understand the other perspective. I get it.
Yeah.
But man, I mean, you can't help but just say it this way. So many affairs would not have happened if you just gave yourself some sort of a rule.
Yeah. So
because we can't help being attracted to other people. We can't.
Right. Well, God made us visual, and men especially, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. We're created that way. And the sin is not that, we see somebody passing by and we glance. No, it's what we do after, right? It's what we entertain. But I say that to say this. My husband, though she was in the church, she was also a coworker. It was in the workplace. So when I found out about the affair, I immediately went to, "I forgive you, just in the affair, got to get a new job," because it's not going to work. So he did. And then when he ended up, I'm a broken mess.
Yeah.
I am in the floor in front of him saying, "Just end it, I'll forgive you." And he just, with no emotion, just looking at me going, "I can't."
Now, did you?
My husband went to his superiors and said, "You need to move me." And they asked him why. And he said, "I cheated on my wife years ago. And for the integrity of my job and my marriage, I can't be in that office alone with her." Do you know what that did for my heart?
I would imagine a really good thing.
Oh, yeah. And
Did they easily comply?
Oh, yes. It was just amazing.
Yeah.
They even told him, people don't do this stuff nowadays. Like what that did for his job, right?
Right. That's integrity.
It's integrity, right. Doing the right thing.
And to even it just come out and say, "This is what I did."
Yeah.
And I'm trying to make it right.
Yeah.
Do the right thing. Yeah.
So now what we do is when we have situations like that, this is exactly what we walk couples through. And there are those that question and go, "Well, that's just a little hefty, don't you think?" And I'm like, actually, no. The stats prove it is so easy to cross a line. So easy. And I would even say it's not just in the workplace. It's in clubs, gyms, right? Bike clubs, dragon boat races. How do I know all this? Because I have clients.
Yeah. Mission trips.
Mission
That's
trips.
a big one.
You got that right. So, it's my dad was also a pastor. And so it was also just in me that, you keep the integrity, right? You don't even give the illusion.
Yeah. I won't even read the evidence of this without hearing your automatic reaction. I'm curious what you think that cheating spikes during the summer and holidays.
Oh, 100%.
Oh, I got to hear what you say, and then I'll read. When I read that, I was like, what does that mean?
100%. It's almost like during the holidays and during the summer, people are more celebratory.
It's like you're reading this. I'll just put this away.
People are more celebratory. Their inhibitions go down.
Relaxed atmosphere,
Yes.
summer, more revealing clothing.
Yes.
It increases flirtation, temptation, holiday
Yep.
periods like Christmas and New Year's, spike in infidelity, possibly due to holiday parties and alcohol consumption.
Yep.
People feel more adventurous, carefree during these times.
Yep, 100%.
Gosh, so
See it
you've
across the
seen
board.
that play out.
Across the board.
Gosh,
Across the board.
that's
Yes.
something else. Infidelity is leading cause of divorce. I'm curious, would you really push hard on someone who was in your shoes saying, hey, my husband cheated on me for 2.5 years, and let's just say it was a good friend of yours, and they're just like, I'm done. I can't do it. I just can't do it. Like, would you, is it just in you, you would have to push them to try, or, hey, some people just don't have it in them. It's dead.
Right.
They can't enter back into that. It's too painful.
Right.
Are there ever times when you're like, yeah, it just may be too painful?
Well, across the board, whether there's somebody I know, and I've actually known people now that I know that have had betrayal happen to them. But whether it's someone I know or it's a client that we minister to, one of the very first things that I tell them is, you are in a fragile state right now. Now, whether it's that they just found out or whether they found out 5 years ago and they never had any healing, they're still fragile and they're raw. And when you're in that state and you've had no care whatsoever, it's like you're bleeding out still on the side of the road. You haven't had any triage in the ER at all. You need critical care. So at that point, I tell them, you're not at a place to make a life-altering decision. Let's stay it for 6 months and let's get you some care. Whether he's going to do it or not, let's get you some care to get you at a better place so that you can make the right educated decision for yourself.
Yeah.
And also in the process, to allow God to heal your heart and to just see what God may do if your husband's willing, right? Because there are those that looked at me and said, Lisa, your husband had a 2.5-year affair and then continued on for this year and a half that y'all were separated.
Yeah.
Like, come on, Lisa, what's, for me, I live by what I preach, right? I was not going to make a life-altering decision because I knew that my frame of mind was, I couldn't do that. It's not right to jump into something that's life-altering. So I was going to give myself a chance to do some healing. But also, I wanted to make sure that I gave the Lord, his time, because I didn't feel released. My walk is such with the Lord that I know if he was going to release me.
Yeah.
The day he did release me, I can tell you, I hit the railroad tracks on North Red. My front tires hit that railroad track, and I heard him say, you're released. It was that evident. And my heart dropped. And the next day, I filed for divorce.
Yeah.
Because it was very evident to me. Now, women that come into my program, whether it's through the betrayal program, Beauty Beyond Betrayal program that we have, just for women, which is a group coaching program. Women heal very quickly in group. Or whether they come as a couple and they're like, I'm 1 foot in, 1 foot out. I need to see what he's going to do, right? I tell them the same thing across the board. Don't make a life-altering decision.
Yeah.
Let's get you some healing first. Then we can help you assimilate what you need to do.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, obviously, we have to wrap soon, but technology, do you see that more and more as being the culprit? Social media is just so easy. It's so easy to hide things. It's so easy to connect with people.
Yeah.
Would you say half of them start there, or maybe that's a little too generous?
That I'd say 3/4 or
3/4.
more.
Whoa.
Yeah. I can tell you that, and for you that are listening, there is a dark web. There is a dark web under Google. There is a dark web in DuckDuckGo. And for those who, I will just say, for those who have any kind of sexual addiction, they should not use DuckDuckGo at all because it erases all history. That is a no-no.
Gotcha.
Pinterest has a dark web to it. Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Snapchat, they all have a dark web underlying underneath it. WhatsApp, all of these apps that can seem seemingly harmless. People don't think of Pinterest as something that's dark underneath that's going to lead them.
I just think of artistic women.
Right. I'm pinning to change my house like HGTV. But there's a dark web under Pinterest, unfortunately, that leads to chat rooms and things of that nature. And I speak real boldly, not just in person, wherever I speak, but on podcast about this, because Satan has taken sex and twisted it so bad to where the pornography industry in the United States is one of the leaders in feeding that industry. We top every other country when it comes to pornography. And what people don't realize, and we tell this to our men when we're working with them, the majority of those that you are viewing are sex-trafficked children.
Oh, my gosh.
Who are made to look like adults. And this is a reality that we help them to come to grips with. Because until they can come to grips with the dark underlying nature of sexual sin, then they're not going to get free from it. Because at the end of the day, it's not changing one bad behavior for a good behavior. It's not about behavior modification. It's literally dismantling the lies that the unfaithful has believed and deep-rooted in them, and then transferring the truth in them so that they can be delivered and set free.
Yeah. I know this won't surprise you. I'm actually going to read this for our listeners, though. Infidelity can happen to in happy relationships, too. So in a happy marriage, it goes on to say, many people think cheating only occurs in unhappy partnerships. This isn't always true. Even satisfied couples can face infidelity. Emotional or sexual affairs can happen when partners feel content. Sometimes a person strays due to curiosity or opportunity, not relationship problems. Boredom or a desire for excitement can lead to cheating, even in good relationships. Some individuals may seek validation or attention outside their partnership. It's important to note that happy couples aren't immune to infidelity. Open communication and maintaining intimacy can help protect against cheating in any relationship. Would you say it's pretty uncommon, though? For like, of all the couples you've worked with, is it more common for the couples just not to have a great relationship?
I think we have like a third that have extremely happy marriages and 2/3, yes.
Dang, a third have extremely happy marriages and somebody cheated.
Yes. So in my case, we had an excellent marriage. My husband tells everyone that we work with, he said, like people looked at us as the model couple. Like we weren't fighting, we weren't carrying on. We had an incredible sex life. I mean, it was like a beautiful relationship. And yet, he strayed. And we see those in that happy marriage, they either are dealing with an underlying pornography issue that they never ever revealed, or there are some deep-rooted issues in their own life that they never addressed, and the affair is an escapism. So you just quoted, they look for attention elsewhere. My husband was looking for attention elsewhere. Why? Because he suffered from extreme low self-esteem due to teenage years.
Right. Personal stuff. Nothing to do with you.
Nothing to do with me. He had never, ever worked his own stuff out. Thus, his wife was successful in something. He was successful, but he saw this difference, and all of a sudden, he's like getting this other person stoking his ego over here. He has this low self-esteem, and it fed his ego. And he's quick to say that. Me, myself, is an unfaithful. I had no self-worth at 25. None. And I had never, ever gotten any care for that. So when someone came along and stoked that for me, what does that boil down to? It hits the pride issue. It does boil down to pride.
Yeah.
It hits that me monster.
Well, we were talking about this a little bit before we pushed the record button, and I'll just read in 1 Corinthians chapter 7, a wife does not have authority over her own body, her husband does. In the same way, a husband doesn't have authority over his own body, but his wife does. I believe this means that when two people are married, there is a commitment to being, I'll say, generous with one another's bodies. But we were talking a little bit about this, and I said I think it goes both ways. So the example I used is, if I'm really wanting to have sex, but my wife really doesn't feel good, well, then that's my time to say I'm going to be selfless.
Yes.
And, because obviously I would say to a husband or wife who's rarely in the mood, well, you need to try to be in the mood then, because you're, what I'm saying? But this verse also, for sure, over the years, it's kept women and maybe even men. I met a pastor recently who shared his story of being emotionally abused by his wife. But when it comes to something like this, like, women have been abused in the past. They've stayed in marriages because men have held this verse over their head, and then the church will support them.
Yes.
Well, hey, it says it right here. You're not having sex with him, and you've got a husband who is, a jerk, and then also wants sex, and is completely shut down emotionally. That can be very abusive feeling to, or just abusive to the woman. So, you got any thoughts on that? Do you see it often? And how do you think that that's an issue in the church, just in general?
I believe it is. And I believe coupled with that verse, on the dovetailing that is, wives, you're supposed to submit to your husbands. Like, if your husband wants sex, you submit to him and you give to him, right? And again, there's also a lot of things that are out there right now that are resurfacing from many, many years ago that says, okay, wives, your husbands are visual. God created them that way. And men are just men. They're going to stray. They're going to look. And it's your job
to keep it from happening.
Do you know what kind of pressure that puts on a woman? Let me tell you what that does. It actually degrades a woman to become an object instead of a gift. Okay? So I see it a lot when couples come to the table and the issue is brought up where we're just not having enough sex and he wants sex more than I want sex. But at the end of the day, you're going to always have it vacillating within a relationship.
Yeah.
Right? And I believe that verse is more along the lines of, you are to give and take in this relationship, and you are to serve each other. There are going to be times when you're just not up for it, but yet you've got the energy. Okay, I love my husband. I want to serve my husband, right? And vice versa, right? But there are, unfortunately, within the church, it's become this thing that says, you're the wife, you need to do this, y'all both need to submit to each other, because if you don't, you're both going to stray. And it puts pressure on the relationship, and it becomes not just sexual abuse, but it becomes spiritual abuse in the church. We're twisting the scriptures. So a lot of times, I'll even see that it's thrown in, well, The wives are supposed to respect their husbands, and one way they need to respect them is to submit to them sexually that way. Again, you're objectifying a woman, and we can even objectify men at that point. So here's my stance on it. God created sex within the confines of a biblical covenant relationship. It was a gift that was given. Also, it was not a need, only for procreation. Sex is not a need. We have basic needs: food, water, sleep. Sex is a desire. It's a desire God put in us, and it is a desired gift that He has given to us. So if we look at it as a gift and we say, okay, this is a gift that God has given to us, then every couple needs to come together and decide, what are we going to do with this gift? So within our program, we actually help couples with this so that we don't have those issues of what you just brought up. We let them know, first off, that sex is not a need. So you're not fulfilling my needs. We're going to take that off the table. That's manipulation. Let's just strip that away. It's a desire, okay? It's a gift. All right. Also, sex is not just the only intimacy. There are 14 different intimacies biblically. Let's talk through all the biblical intimacies and let's start there. So how we help couples reconnect so that we're not dealing with this issue is we say, okay, let's start praying to God about this beautiful gift of sex that He gave you. Let's invite Him into the bedroom. And they're like, wait a minute, what? Like, well, He created it. Invite Him in, ask His favor there. So now they're connecting spiritually, which is the gateway of what God intended. That now opens them up to connect emotionally. So now you're not only praying about your sex life, but now we're going to talk about it. What positions do you like? What don't you like? What's off the table? What is on the table? What's in the confines of Scripture, right? Where did God give us creativity? Like, we need to discuss those things as a married couple. What about frequency? Do we need to schedule it? It's okay to schedule it, right? We're busy. We've got kids, whatever it is. Then, because we've connected spiritually, number one, emotionally, number two, then we can connect physically in the way that God intended, and God's favor rests on that beautifully. Then you're not going to have those issues.
Yeah.
The reason why we have those issues is because society has told us to connect physically first.
Maybe the Bible's onto something. Maybe there's a correct order.
They connect physically, they bypass emotionally, and they certainly very seldom connect spiritually.
Yep.
So thus, the Scriptures are twisted so that people can get their physical needs met when it's not a physical need. It's a gift from God. And we need to look at it in the context in which He designed it.
Yeah. Well, we will have everything in the show notes for you to connect with Lisa. And I will say, I just did a simple math problem. The last stat I was going to read to you is 31% of marriages survive infidelity. Your ministry is 68% more than that, because you said 99%. So obviously God is using,
We're doing it His way.
The ministry.
We're doing it His
Awesome.
way.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Very much. This has been a great conversation, and I think helpful to a lot of people. And I think your waiting list may grow a little bit.
Thank you again for having me.
Yeah, for sure.
It was a pleasure.
You've been watching Seacoast Church's Things You Won't Hear on Sunday podcast. You can now become a patron of this podcast and receive exclusive content. Your support goes towards Seacoast ministry efforts and local presence. Also, be sure to leave us a review and subscribe to this podcast so that you get these episodes as soon as they're released. All of this information can be found in the show notes. Thanks for watching.